said, it's the lesson you need to learn is that this architecture is really not about you. It is about the client. So early on, I learned that, like, because I'm going to take this away from you. You were designing for me, but it's not yours.
It's mine now.
Yep, it's mine.
Today on the Curious Builder podcast, we had Chisel Architecture on. We had Sarah and Marcy, and it was a great podcast. I love talking to people that you know really well. The chemistry is really good, and so you can really dive a little deeper on their business practices. I really enjoyed talking about their pattern of life, and it was really just kind of a founding principle of how they started their architecture firm and how it influences how they design homes. Incredible people. Without further ado, here is Chisel Architecture. Welcome to the Curious Builder podcast. I'm Mark Williams, your host. Today, I am joined with Chisel Architecture. We have Sarah Witcher and Marcy Townsend. Welcome, ladies. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having us.
So we have a lot. So we've gotten to know each other pretty well over the last 6 months already.
Yeah, probably 6 months.
Time flies. So we're doing a development in Orono. For those that are listening that are in Minnesota, we've done a lot of publicity for Honey Hill, which is a development that Aspect Builders and I are doing. And you are one of the 3 architects that we chose to work with there. And so we've designed a cool home, a couple homes together, the Honey Crisp and the Dragon. And maybe we'll start there, because one thing that immediately drew me to both of you was your warmth and of personality you have as people, but it really shows up in your architecture. When we were first sitting down to kind of see how you operate and interviewing you, like, it became very clear, like, you're just very warm and hospitable, like you feel comfortable. And I think I nicknamed you immediately, didn't I? I called you Woolly Mittens, right, Sarah?
Right.
So
because we had been working on a project, we shared a project with you called, wool. We were the Woolen Mitten. So yeah,
and it stuck with you.
It stuck with you, yeah. So it could be for both of you. But in my phone, it pops up
as Woolly Mittens.
It says Sarah Woolly Mittens Witcher.
I love
so your
that.
middle name is Woolly Mittens.
Yeah.
Don't worry, I'm pretty sure you know what you're going to get for Christmas.
Yeah, I know.
So,
oh gosh.
Anyway, amazing. So yeah, kudos to you. I mean, I think both Sean and Tom, the principals at Aspect, and myself, like, we really appreciate. And it's not to say that, I would just say your warmth of character was so appealing. And a big part of what I do, essentially as a builder in my normal job when I'm not a podcast host is really a matchmaking, right? And so It's like assembling the team, and, certain architects, there's different things that are important. Like your skill as an architect obviously is important, but honestly, a big part is I always tell my people that I work with, like, choose the team you want to spend the next couple of years of your life with. So therefore, warmth of character is pretty high on my list, because it's like, there are a lot of talented people, but if you could be talented, warm and inviting and charismatic and all these other things, like, sign me up. That sounds amazing. Right. Yeah. And so, yeah, anyway, that was my first impression of the both of you. And I'd heard a lot about you from, around town, from other builders and some of our peers. And so I was kind of excited, for that first interview. Now it feels like I've known you guys for a long time.
So likewise, I mean, Sarah and I, we've been at this a while, right? I mean, we met when 25 years ago, when we were wee little interns at Sala Architects. And so, point being, having done this for a while, we want to work with people we enjoy being around. I mean, you said it best, Mark. I mean, we're so fortunate here in the Twin Cities to have so many talented architects and so many talented builders and so many talented interior designers. I mean, this industry here is really robust and full of talent, and that's a differentiating factor for us.
I feel like, just having been out in Boston for the Contractor Coalition, I met with a number of builders, about 30 builders from around the country. In talking to some other builders, their perspective of architects is so different than mine. I don't know if they just haven't worked with any, or if there just aren't any where they are. And it wasn't in Boston. It was like, North Carolina or South Carolina. It's like most of them don't work with architects. They work with either draftspeople, which is fine. I've built a number of homes with draftspeople, and that's fine. It's different nuance, obviously, and things like that. But I do think, in having always, grown up and built all my homes in Minnesota, when excellence is all around you, you just think that's the norm. Yeah. I told my parents the other day, shout out to amazing moms and dads, but my mom and dad are incredible. But I thought everyone had amazing moms and dads. And then as you become an adult and you become a parent, you're like, oh, wow, I had no idea just how, my mom and dad are like the Olympic level. Like they're
Mhm.
amazing mom and dad. So I had my lunch out with my mom yesterday. She's like, "Oh, thank you, honey. That's so nice of you." And but it's true. And so anyway, my point in bringing that up is like I feel like being surrounded by so many quality builders and craftspeople and designers and architects, I feel like Minneapolis is just got an abundance of wealth. And then you come to find out that we do win a lot of awards nationally with the architecture that's here. Is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's an amazing community. I mean, we are so lucky because there are a lot of architecture firms, design build firms, amazing contractors, interior designers, lighting designers, all sorts of champions in their field. And we really, I feel like our Twin Cities area really has raised the bar with design all around, architectural design.
When it's kind of interesting, as I've had other architects on, I ask them, and I'll ask you the same question is, what percentage of your work is in Minnesota, let's say within 50 miles of the cities versus, of course, outstate. And then, of course, let's call rural Minnesota, like the cabin country, things like that. And, some of them are like 50-50, 60-30, or sorry, 60-40. So it's just kind of interesting how many architects work outside the state. And especially because not very many people have vacation homes in Minnesota, meaning like very few people from Florida are going to be like, oh, we want to winter in Minnesota. It's usually the opposite, right? So I always feel kind of bad or not bad. I feel like as a builder, we have to capture them when they're young before they because nobody retires really in Minnesota. I mean, it's a great community, right? But my friend Brad in Arizona, right? Most of his homes are transplants or people are, and so they get a lot of not only native Arizona people that are building, but they get people from all over the United States, where I feel like if you're going to build a home or target people, they have to sort of be from Minnesota. However, as an architect, I would imagine that some of your clients that are here, as they move to other states, they'll say, hey, would you design our home in Florida or Tennessee or, these popular retiring places? So
we've done that.
Yeah.
We've done that. I mean, we have projects in Florida, but we literally have a client right now who primary home is in Florida, and we're designing them a cabin to retire in.
Flipping the model. So there is somebody.
They're in Wisconsin. Yep.
In Wisconsin.
Yep.
Yeah. So we see all kinds.
Yeah.
And we do go all over. It's really about that personality fit. And one thing we're coming to realize, just based on who's contacting us, these people are nationwide. Our website does a really good job of speaking to that certain demographic that maybe they've already been through the process before. And second time around, they learn that what is important is good design, but to also pay attention to that personality fit and that warmth of character. And there's a way that it comes across in interacting with Sarah and me. That we get that.
Yeah, I think the authenticity is that people care. I mean, you care.
Yeah, we care.
And I think, and that's not to say that others don't, but like also, the way we emote, the way we show people we care. Obviously some people are more stoic. You guys can clearly see your emotions on your faces, Sarah in particular.
Sarah doesn't have a good poker face.
Yeah,
I
neither
know
do I.
what you see.
Yeah, I'm
what you
100%
get.
the same way. I can't bluff anything.
And with that said, I do want to say something because it makes me kind of uncomfortable, but I am not a registered architect. I have a graduate degree and I've taken all the development and I've taken 3 of the exams, but you can't call me a registered architect. I am only an intern, really. According to the AAA or a home designer, but I just need to, no one can call me that. And I always like to be completely transparent about that.
I appreciate that. We've had a couple other home designers, as they call themselves, that they brought them on. And it's interesting because, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe we'll talk about this because it's been about a year and a half since we've talked about it, where, I think the public at large calls anyone that designs a home an architect, which is not true. I think the best analogy that I can think of, mainly because my wife's a doctor, is you've got doctors, you've got nurses, you've got,
DOs.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many different
so many
certifications, right?
Yeah.
Find a nurse of 30 years, 40 years, like I guarantee that she knows a lot.
Yeah.
And so it's not to diminish that. And so it's interesting because I get a lot of clients ask me, who do you recommend? And so it's up to me now to sort of not only illustrate the differences between different firms, but also make sure that, to your point, Sarah, that we're not telling them something that's not true. And it's really just, most clients don't honestly care. And
No.
it's interesting because the architecture field is sort of interesting because it seems like it really celebrates commercial architecture and that there's
Absolutely.
not really great paths for residential architecture. Is that accurate?
Oh, that's very
Can you
accurate.
can you speak a little to that? Because I think that's a lot of people don't understand that, and I think it's interesting and sort of confusing, frankly.
Well, I know when I graduated from graduate school, I went and interviewed with all the big I interviewed with all the big commercial firms. And a lot of my professors, though, happened to work in residential architecture. So then I had a big pull from Tim Fuller, Dale Mulfinger, people come and work for us.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was interesting going to see those big firms because it wasn't a good fit for me personally because I am so personable. I'm here because I'm personable. And it's not just how people say it's just about business. Just cut out all that. Just cut that all out. And it's not for me. It's the business and the personality. There's a big mishmash between that. That's a great word, huh? Mishmash.
Mishmash is a
Yeah.
great one. I think also not Minnesota. I think housing in general is such an emotional thing. I've mentioned this many times. Other than your wedding, I think building a home is the most emotional thing that you'll ever choose to do. And I can't think of anything else other than obviously, I guess, family too, right? Having children and things like that. But ultimately getting married, think of all the time and effort and thought that goes into this idealistic day.
Mhm.
And then building a home, a dream home. And to what you said earlier, Marcy, is that I have found that more often than not, when higher end architecture is invoked, it's because people have built before and either were disappointed or were elated by the experience. I've never seen anyone in my 20 years where they've had architecture and gone back the other way.
Right.
And it is sometimes hard to level someone up, mainly because it's a pricing thing that they don't understand. Honestly, it's a lot like cars. I mean, when you buy a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, you're making, there's a brand, but I mean, there's a lot of styling and a lot of art and nuance. You can buy a car for hundreds of thousands less, but it's not the same car. And I think when you go into a highly architectural detailed home, like it feels different. And some people, their value statement is that matters to them, and some it doesn't. And I usually, for those that say it doesn't, they're not a good fit for me because, if they're looking for as big a home as possible for as cheap as possible, that just doesn't really align with my value statements.
Right.
Have you ever designed a house?
No.
Have you built your own house?
Like physically?
No. I mean,
Gone through the process
gone through the
yourself.
process yourself?
Yeah.
Not with, let's see here. Early on when I was first, so I've been married for 11 years.
Mhm.
I've remodeled a number of homes, but we've never built a new home since I've been married. I've done a few homes that were model homes, so they weren't for me. Interesting question. So I'm doing my first spec home now in 14 years. I'm going to do one over here in Cottagewood. And I decided that I am not good at predicting what somebody will like because it could be anything. And I'm really good with a person, with a touchstone. So I decided that I'm going to be my own touchstone. So I am designing the home as if it is for my wife and I and our 3 kids. I mean, literally on the plan, I probably won't publish the plan, but it'll be like May's bedroom, Simon's bedroom, like everything about our lifestyle. I am sort of putting into this house. And we love Scandinavian design. And so it's going to be simple architecture, simple lines, and even watching some stuff about all wood materials, all natural light. And anyway, these principles, we're going to design the house around a philosophy. I've never done that before. I know architects do this all the time. But so to answer your question, this will be the first house that I've sort of designed, but oddly enough, I won't live in it.
But what's interesting about that too is that when we met you and we had you in the office for Pattern of Life. So we designed Dragon for you based on the imagery you showed us and then everything that you talked about. So it's so interesting to me now that we've had this discussion but that Dragon House is really about you and what you want. And Marcy and I give you an A+ for being an amazing client because you really, I mean, I know that, right? Show the guns. But a really good client is someone who is actually going to stay out of our lane, stay in your client lane, tell us what you want, and then back away. I mean, I can't even tell you the amount of times that you have said, nope, that's up to you, Marcy and Sarah.
I mean, I think I've always been a delegator, mainly because it's not that I'm not, and it's also, you know what you're good at, you know what you're not. Now, I will say that you asked if I've ever designed. I do enjoy the design process, right? I mean, after 20 years, I've seen, you know,
Oh my God.
and so many different things. But I guess I keep coming back to the name of the podcast, The Curious Builder. I'm just a very curious person. So I'm always really interested to know like your thought process, like what goes into it. And when I can see it on paper, it's really interesting. And I'm like, oh, well, that's interesting how they did that. And so I'm just curious about like how you created that and how. So I'm equally interested in letting you do it because I can't, but I'm also equally interested to know like, ooh, what are they going to? It's like a surprise for me.
Yeah.
It's like, ooh, I can't wait to see what it is. And it's hard. I don't think about it deliberately because it is annoying if a client is like micromanaging your business. One of the hardest parts of being a cost plus builder, which I'm happy to do, but a lot of our clients own businesses but then they come into our business and try to run our business. It's like, you're hiring me to make this a better experience for you. I'll show you everything you want to see. But like the goal is for you not to like, I mean, I've done this for 20 years. I don't need to practice, we're professionals. And you want them to feel competent and comfortable. So part of it is just respecting the profession. And anyway, that's my value statement.
Yeah.
So it's not everybody's, evidently.
Yeah.
Well, we work with a lot of business owners as well. And one thing that, I guess you could say we've learned is that you need to let people in. And sometimes they want to see how the sausage is made. But sometimes they don't. Once they've caught a glimmer of it, they realize, oh, wow, there's a lot that goes into this. And frankly, well, depending on the client, but a lot of them decide, I don't have the time to track all the minutia.
I mean, that's frankly better if someone can realize that because, that's why they hired you. Yeah. And I like it if they're excited, like if they want to see, like that's fun, right? Like doing it together. I mean, a team that is really enjoyable. I think just realizing that you're a team. And so I often tell people, someone said the other day, they're like, oh, this is my boss. And I said, oh, please don't call me that. I said, we're partners.
We're partners.
And I don't like,
I'm part of the team. We're part of a team.
Yeah. And that's really important. And really, I think, even like somebody's home, when they're building it, no one home will ever be the same because, the entire team is different every time, mainly because the client is different. Even if you had the same architecture firm and same subs and same builder, every home is still going to be different because the client is offering you, that's that keystone, that touchstone that really, and a lot. I mean, the land and the client makes such a big difference in how homes change. And I think that's what keeps it interesting and fresh. I think my ADHD couldn't handle if I was building the same box, over and over and over again. I think I would lose my mind.
Boo.
Yeah. Boo. Boo. 2 thumbs down.
2 thumbs down. Boo. Well, it's interesting. A long time ago, I worked on a project. The land is amazing. It was going to be a log home. Just huge team put together. And the client said one thing. She said, when this is all said and done, when I open up my screen door, I want it to slam shut, because she wanted to have one of those coil, those old fashioned coils. So,
I do.
And then smack.
Yeah.
And that was what really was kind of that little, the pinnacle of the whole project. Everything kind of fell off of that or was built off of that. Yeah. Amazing.
That's cool.
The foundational concept for the entire project.
Yeah.
Was based on that.
People tell us, a sound. It was so interesting.
A singular sound.
How do you, and maybe this ties into pattern in life. I know you've mentioned that a few times, and we were talking offline before we started a little bit about how that's been informed. Well, let's just tell us more about that.
Yeah. So that spring sound, that slapping screen door sound, that is one of, it gets at the sensory experience of architecture, right? We talk about this process, this wedding-like process, and then what are you left with after the end of the event? Wedding, you're left with your marriage, but you're living in this house. And what is your experience of this house every day of your life? And that's what we get at in Pattern of Life. Yes, there's a process involved. Yes, there's a very complicated, increasingly complicated process anymore of building a house. But what is your experience every day living in this house, and how does the house support it? We talk about the sensor, all 5 senses. We talk about what do you want to see? What do you want to hear? What don't you want to hear? That's an interesting question to ask people, especially when they haven't even seen a single drawing from us yet.
This episode is brought to you by Pella Windows and Doors. I've used Pella for 21 years as the exclusive window company on every one of my builds. When people ask me who I trust for windows and doors, it's Pella, every time. Their craftsmanship, their innovation, the top-tier service make them a no-brainer for any custom home builder or designer who demand the best. Whether you're designing something bold or building something with timeless elegance, Pella has you covered. They're also the only window company that has a lifetime warranty on all of their windows. I've gotten to know all their people at Pella Corporate, as well as locally here at Pella Northland. I'm proud to call them our partners and our friends. Visit Pella.com to learn more and connect with your local reps today. Also, for more information, you can listen to episode 1, where I interview their founders, as well as episode 109, where we talk about the innovation at Pella. This episode is brought to you by Adaptive. If you're still chasing checks and juggling spreadsheets, it's time to upgrade. Adaptive is revolutionizing how builders get paid with AI-powered bill pay, automated draws, one-click payments, and built-in lien waivers. Faster payments, fewer headaches, and total visibility. Adaptive takes care of the back-end chaos so you can focus on what you do best, building. We've used Adaptive for 2.5 years and trust them to keep our projects moving and payments flowing. Learn more at adaptive.build and simplify the pay process today. For more information, you can also listen to episode 10 and episode 15. Are you speaking to kids, babies crying, outside noise, like flushing of toilets, like that kind of? Okay.
All of the above.
Yeah. The ice cubes dropping in the freezer. Some people are like, it drives me crazy.
Funny. That's actually a good question. That should be on the intake form, because I've had now a few times where someone, like the Scotsman is a really well-known.
Yes.
But that thing makes a ton of noise. Like cycling water like once a day. It works really good in the basement on a concrete floor with a drain.
Right.
But if it's on the main floor, it's very noisy.
Yeah. So we planned for all of this.
Yeah.
We had a client who didn't want to hear his kitchen oven fan kick on when they turned the oven off.
Right.
Like,
we had somebody that didn't want to hear water. Yeah. And so we had to do cast iron pipes in the whole house.
Right.
That was really expensive.
You mean water going through the PVC pipes?
Yeah. Yep. Which would be a lot.
That would be way noisier.
Yeah, right. Expensive. And so knowing that up front, we can earmark budget for more than code compliant plumbing, at least in certain areas. Because we do get that fine-tuned in our design.
And one in particular comes to mind is they had a sump basket that was, the sump baskets are so loud. And for those not familiar with sump baskets, basically you've got, subterranean water coming into your foundation and you're pumping it out. And it's this, it's like this really annoying thing. And we do it every day. So as a builder, but if you're sitting in a great room, especially if you're on lakeland or a high water table and it's going every minute, I can see why it would annoy me too. And so we had one, oddly enough, the home was up on a hill. It must've had some crazy,
sort of spring
water draw or hydrostatic tension or something going on in the soil, because it was very unusual. Anyway, that was the one that we had to put cast iron pipes all around it to deaden the noise. And that did the trick. Now, what was funny is it would go out the house and then the water would splash on the rocks, and then that annoyed them. And so then we had to pipe it down into a well, we're here to solve problems. But it wouldn't have even dawned on me to have asked that question. And maybe it wouldn't. And here's the thing. Sometimes it doesn't even dawn on the client either.
Right.
And sometimes we don't know what annoys us until it annoys us.
Yeah.
There's a lot of marriages that could probably succumb to that one. So
yeah.
That's another podcast. Called Marriage Therapy.
Yeah, marriage therapy.
There's a fine line between
marriage therapy
and marriage.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not really that fine of a line. It's pretty much, we had a designer on actually right next to our studio, the sitting room, Kate Regan. So I had her on the podcast. I think she was episode 4 or 5 early on. And she actually went to school for psychology. Yeah. And we were laughing at that really, honestly, in the home building business, whether it's remodeling, the contractor, any of the subs, the designer, honestly, a psychology major would be very helpful because emotions are high. It's often a very emotional experience.
Well, it happens all the time. You know, you get a couple and we say right out front,
Oh, yeah.
you're
Ground
not
rules.
gonna agree on everything, and that's okay. Let Marcy and I grapple with that. It's gonna be okay. But
We are really good at reconciling two very disparate opinions
Mhm.
and finding a space that can speak to both. And it's funny you bring up psychology because when I was an undergrad, every chance I got, I took a psychology class, like all of my electives. And then in graduate school, I focused on basically applied environmental psychology.
What does that mean
If you
exactly?
think of environmental psychology, how does one's environment influence how they feel, how they behave, their relationships, their mood, their general outlook on life? How does one's environment influence all of that? And I bring that into architecture every day. And it's funny, Sarah had a very different educational experience. She went to the U, I went to University of Illinois. We didn't even know each other at the time, but we come together as interns and we both have kind of this fundamental understanding. And then each of us are brought up in our careers. We never work together
Mm-mm.
on a project
Mm-mm.
coming up. But we each formed this very similar set of appreciation for what the environment can do and how we like to design. And yeah, like I said, when we were thinking about starting this firm, Sarah said pattern of life. I can't even remember what we were exactly talking about. And I grabbed onto it. I'm like, we're trademarking that.
Yeah.
And luckily it was available. And we've just grabbed onto it and we've been developing it and evolving it as we see it. It's kind of taken on its own life and it speaks to people.
Well, because it's really all about the client, right?
Yeah.
We are not living in this home. We live in it when we design it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's not our home. It has to be about the client and all those teeny little minutia up to the big, huge moves. It just has to be about them. Yeah. So that's what pattern of life. Everyone has patterns of life. Sometimes people think they want to have a different pattern of life. I want to have a super clean kitchen.
I want a white kitchen.
Yep, I want it clean. I want all the junk, all the mixers and all that stuff behind doors. And you know, the truth of the matter is some people just can't keep a kitchen like that. They just have stuff all over the place. That's what their pattern is. And that's fine, right? So it's just so interesting. We try to guide them back because we see people in their homes and we talk about this. We kind of suss this out of them. Like, okay, how do you really live? What do you have out on your countertop, for an example? And so, you know, just gently guiding people back to your pattern of life is just fine for you. You are perfect the way you are. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
What's sort of ironic about that is you have people that are, I'll take my wife, for example. She's very minimalistic. She could definitely get away with just open shelves, or so you would think, and having everything stacked up. But here's what's funny is the person that can do it doesn't want it, because to a minimalist, seeing it up there, they want it behind closed doors.
Right.
And the ironic part is the person, like, you know, like I wouldn't say I'm really either. I'm probably, you know, somewhere in the middle, and I would appreciate that. But I'd probably be fine with trying it, and then it would just be, you know, it would be cluttery or whatever. And but then you have the person that knows themselves very well, and they're like, no, everything has to be. It's like,
Behind
reminds
the
me of like
door.
Calvin and Hobbes, like the doors are closed and like
Yeah.
they're just waiting to explode. And then, you know, the mom comes in, it's like boom, the closet explodes with clothes, right? You know, I can't wait till those teenage years. I'm sure that'll happen. And but it's funny how you would think that people change, and I think you can, obviously, but you notice that even in children. Like my daughter is just naturally more messy. I go into her room and it's like a bomb went off. And Simon, my middle one, he's like, all his Legos are in like a perfect load. I mean, there's some innate ordering system that goes on in their brains. And I think in terms of a homes, that's, we're testing people. A big part of, I feel like my job is, probing questions and saying, if this happened, how would you react? Or, tell me more, asking those questions and saying, tell me a little bit more. And I feel like good designers, good architects, I think architects are really good listeners.
We have to be.
Yeah.
We have to be. There are some that maybe don't listen very well. And frankly, it's those architects that we find ourselves being, almost being stereotyped with. I mean, there are the star architects that, Frank Gehry, Frank Lloyd Wright, quite a bit of his work up here. And other architects where, every house that they do, you can tell they did it. You can tell that's, so-and-so, and that house is done by so-and-so. I don't know if we consciously try to be the exact opposite of that, but we try to totally remove ourselves and be almost, a lot of question that we're lobbed all the time is, what style do you do? And we don't have a style. I mean, our training, the way we were brought up in this industry, we've learned to appreciate a breadth of styles. And when you boil them all down, they each have their own characteristics and philosophies buried underneath them. And once you know those, you can bring them to life and you can reinvent them according to whoever the client is.
Do you find that sometimes, and I'll just speak for myself, like, Minnesota is a pretty traditional clientele. And, I could close my eyes and build a traditional home because I've done it for 20 years. Like, I know what I'm doing. There's a part of me that's like, I really just want to do a modern home or a contemporary home. I just want to do something different. I really love my traditional homes. I build a lot of them, but it's like sometimes as the artist, you just want to scratch the thing that you don't get to do very often. Do you find as architects that is, how often does that come up? Or are you able to express yourself or maybe push a client in a little way? Or how do you find the same itch? I mean, do you find that like, oh man, I'd really like to do something a little more French? I mean, the Dragon has a little bit of French influence in it, right? So how do you navigate that as artists? Because you really get to dictate that more than I do.
We're so fortunate right now. We have so many projects going on that our itches are being scratched.
Yeah. We go from modern to super rustic.
So you've got all of them.
Yeah.
But, if we do find ourselves, with an itch of some sort, personally, I use my personal time to scratch it. I really don't.
So you'll design it just to design it.
Yeah, doodle it. I mean, we draw all the time.
Yeah.
And that can be just as valid an outlet, I guess. But Sarah?
Yeah, I mean, you draw it out and sometimes you look at it like, that's not them.
Yeah.
But you burn it out of your system. Like Dragon, right? It was interesting how that name came about, which I know we want to talk about, but it just needed a dragon on top of the building because it was for you, Mark D. Williams, Dragon Man.
Yeah, that's funny. I don't know how I got that nickname, but
I know, but it literally came out of our hands, and then that was it. And what is the name going to be? Dragon.
Oh, for sure. For those that aren't picking up this, so we designed a home in Honey Hill, the development we talked about earlier. And as we did this concept, I was describing, we had a few key images, but really it was more just describing the philosophy and the clientele and the person I thought would be attracted, and let the land sort of dictate a lot of the form of what it was going to be. And then evidently my personality somehow came out in Dragon, which is awesome because it definitely fits the house, which is funny because I think Tom and Sean are like, ooh, I like the Dragon too. And there's this Honeycrisp, which is, let's go talk about the naming. How is it that I love that you name every plan. I just think that's really clever. It's very appealing and it has a great story to it. How does that naming convention happen? Because sometimes, I don't know if it's analogous to like sometimes getting somebody like a custom gift, like a client, can be hard because you have to know them pretty well. And then there's just a lot of pressure to make it really unique and different. And sometimes it's almost like a writer's block. How often do you get like a naming block where it's just a name doesn't happen or it jumps off the paper?
Well, this is a great question. So when I was in graduate school, I was working with Professor Cynthia Jarrah, who worked for IMP. And She would always take our drawings, whatever we were working on, big architecture libraries, and so we would say like be working at 1/8 inch scale. She would have us shrink it down to 1/16 of an inch, which is just itty bitty, itty bitty. And then she would sit with you, you do your critique with your professor, and she would take a red pen and draw on this teeny little diagram and just, rip it to shreds, basically. And I asked her about that, like, why do you always have us shrink everything down to 16th inch? And she said, it's the lesson you need to learn is that this architecture is really not about you. It is about the client. So early on, I learned that, like, because I'm going to take this away from you. You were designing for me, but it's not yours.
It's mine now.
Yep, it's mine. And so when I was working at Sala, then I got to work a lot with Tim Fuller and Dale Mulfinger, and we just started naming everything. Dale's really good at coming up with these funny names. And but that combination of naming things also was that taking it away. I am designing this cabin for you. We're going to name it something. When we give it back to you, you certainly can name it whatever you want. But right now, it's mine, even though I'm designing it for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, you're leaving an imprint of yourself. I mean, I think any good artist leaves an imprint of themselves in their work. And I think the con of that sometimes is like, if you put your heart and soul into something and it's not appreciated or it doesn't go forward, there's a little piece of you that sort of dies in that moment. And I think any artist, any craftsman, anyone that cares about what they do knows what I'm talking about. Because I don't know how you can care about what you do and not put yourself in it. I mean, at the end of the day, the reason people are moving forward with you specifically is they feel a connection. They feel not a responsibility. They feel that you are going to bring out of them something better than they could do on their own. So it's this team thing, right? And so I think as someone that is aiding this craft process, like I love to get into a home and, it's a little bit, you said before I do a good job of staying out. Well, we haven't built the house yet. But
that's your lane, Mark. I
right.
mean, and literally Marcy and we will back down. I mean, we want to be there, but that's your lane. And we respect that.
But see, and I tend to be an idea person. So I like to throw a lot of stuff at the walls. And then I sort of need my team to shoot it down. I talk about it all the time on the podcast about starting businesses, that usually between Monday and Wednesday, I've started 5 businesses. It's Thursday and Friday, I got to shoot them all down. And then maybe one makes it to the weekend. And so that's part of the idea generation, right? I mean, I can't create ideas the way you do on paper. In fact, someone asked me to do a bubble diagram for all this idea. And I started doing it. I'm like, I just threw it in the garbage. I'm like, I will give you all the input. I'll give you the philosophy. You do the bubble diagram. I'll be able to react to it, but like, I don't know, bubble diagrams, I just don't. That's just it doesn't come off my hands very well.
Yeah, it comes out. It comes out in other ways.
Right. Exactly.
You just need someone to pick that up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'll be your keystone anytime you run into a roadblock. So yeah, the naming thing is super interesting, and I think that people identify with that as well. I imagine a lot of clients. Do you have any funny stories where people are like?
Yeah. Well, a really funny one is we've been working with Burnside Lodge up in Ely, Minnesota. Yeah. And the owners, Lonnie and Lou, have been working. They have the cabin that they live in when they're there, but they also have this other cabin, which now they kind of call it the summer cabin. And they have been messing around with it for probably 10 to 12 years. Yeah. It's a log cabin. It's been added onto a couple times. Mm-hmm. You have to take a boat to get there. I mean, it's super charming. And up in Ely, the topography is all stone. So it's a wooden house that sits on top of the stone. Mm-hmm. Anyway, Lou and Lonnie and then their son have been messing around with it. Should we do this? Should we do that? And anyway, we did some design work for them.
Yeah.
And
planning design work.
Yeah. Yep. And the name we came up with was Tinkertown because Lou and his son just tinker around. So
funny.
We were super nervous about putting, like, how funny are they going to be? How funny are they going to think we are? Anyway,
they loved it.
They loved it. Yeah. It's the perfect name. Tinkertown.
I mean, the naming is just really powerful. I'm really intrigued. It makes me want to do it, for all projects that we have.
Yeah.
It's so much more interesting than Scheme A.
Yeah. Scheme B.
Scheme C.
Whoa.
For those that have been listening to the Curious Builder podcast, you know how much I love the Contractor Coalition Summit. It's been the single biggest force multiplier in my business over 21 years. We're excited to announce again that we're coming back to Chicago, November 7th through the 10th. All the details can be found at thecontractorcoalitionsummit.com. And under the promo code for a $2,500 discount, type in Curious Builder. We'll see you in Chicago. This episode of The Curious Builder is brought to you by Olive & Vine Socials. If you're a builder, a designer, or an architect looking to grow your brand without dancing on TikTok or spending your whole life on social media, listen up. Olive & Vine Social specializes in Pinterest marketing, blogging, and email strategy for luxury home brands. They help you turn your beautiful work into a strategic SEO-driven content that drives real traffic and connects you with your ideal clients without burning you out. Ready to grow smarter and not harder? Visit oliveandvinesocials.com and tell them the Curious Builder sent you. Just so you know, I've been working with Alyssa over at Olive & Vine for 3 years. She helped us launch the podcast. She's helped us grow our brand at Mark Williams Custom Homes. I could not do what I've done without her help. And I'm more than happy to announce that she's our latest sponsor for the Curious Builder podcast.
It's really important to us to not show our bias. And so, you can't put a scheme A, scheme B, scheme C in front of someone, because that implies, okay, scheme C is the best one. That's the answer to the question. That's the one I should pick. But if we put in front of them, all right,
Dragon and Colette.
Yeah, Dragon and Colette, which is what we put in front of you.
I mean, Dragon all the way based on name for sure.
Yeah.
This isn't Les Miserables. We're not going with Colette.
But one of my
It's a very tragic ending.
Yeah.
So sad.
One of my favorite clients, they were diehard Friends fans. Like
funny.
They knew every Friends episode by heart. They didn't even need to watch it, but they had it on TV and they had them, And so we literally put in front of them the one with the leather pants. That was the name of one of the schemes.
That's really funny.
And the one with the spray tan.
That
was another scheme.
Yep.
And then the one with the Thanksgiving trifle. That was another scheme.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And so
I mean, I think it shows a deep amount of empathy. And I mean, there's some skill involved with the naming. Some people might find it overwhelming, but I think it really comes back to the warmth and the character and the thing that people feel. I think you found a way to sort of redirect it back. And it's just one small thing, right? I mean,
It's one little thing.
but it's, honestly, it's funny. It's the little things that make kind of a big difference. And obviously naming something, there's some ownership to it. I like that perspective that you had. And so I think you name anything. It's almost like, if you found like a stray squirrel in the yard and then before you know it, your kids are feeding it and then they name it. Once they name it, it's
all over.
You own it. It's not
happening.
You have
to continue to feed that squirrel.
Yeah, that squirrel is yours. Tell us a little bit about, I had a question earlier that I was kind of mulling around in my brain on how to ask it, but it seems, am I wrong? And the observation I've had with architecture firms, so many architects and designers work with other firms, as you guys both have, and then you decide to start your own firm. Let's talk a little bit about the business side of things. So there's two usually logical progressions for building. There is, obviously there's the family heritage thing. So that's one. Two would be the remodeler that sort of grows and then they get a new home and they expand that way. And then you have, let's say, a high-end builder that has a very accomplished project manager, and then they eventually break off on their own and they start their own building company, and away they go. Very rarely that I can think of do builders start with two builders, like two project managers. I feel like a lot of architects, they're partners, like they both worked at firms. So you hear this story all the time, and it's like they say, you know what? So tell us a little bit about that origin story.
our origins.
Yeah, what is your origin story?
That's a hard question.
Yeah.
But
Well, enough of the easy ones. It's time to rough you up
I
a
know.
little.
Yeah.
I know. Yikes.
Well, we were walking
Yeah, we were walking.
to get coffee.
Mhm.
And finally, after years of joking about it, we're like, what if we actually did this? And I think what got us joking about it years prior is that architects in general, and just architecture school in general, there is this celebrated singular architect that is fully autonomous and, can do it all themselves. And that is almost like the historic visual
Mhm.
or stereotype
Mhm.
of the profession that we are taught in school. First of all, Sarah and I didn't have the nerve to do this. We're from 6 years old now. Should have done it a long time ago, but we didn't have the nerve to do it because we didn't think that we were skilled enough.
Well, and truth be told, like Marcy and I have very different strengths and weaknesses. I have, and we recognize that in each other. I have great respect for Marcy and all of her skills and all of her weaknesses.
Way better at a ton of things that
it's just,
frankly, I don't have to do anymore. No,
but that it's significant because, when you think about going out on your own, I never could have done it. I don't think you could have done it either. And so together, it just works really, really well.
Yeah.
And so that's just acknowledging kind of your strengths and weaknesses, I think.
Yeah.
And so it just...
I mean, the analogy that comes to mind is a marriage. While husbands and wives famously have gaps with each other, they also bring out the best in each other. Like I know, I'm a better person because of who my spouse is. I hope she feels the same way. But like I was thinking about children, like raising, I've never experienced raising, not that sometimes life makes you do this, but I'm saying like having children, you have someone else to reflect on, like how should we do this? You reflecting ideas, and it's not easy, like it's really hard actually, but it's the closest analogy I can think of like having a partner in a business. That's not, we've had other husband and wives on, we've had brother or father and sons on. And so it's always just kind of interesting to see partners on that choose to run a business. And I found later in my career that because I've always kind of been a solo entrepreneur, I'm much more open and enjoying working and collaborating with other people. I mean, even Honey Hill, one of the highlights is, even though Aspect Design Build and Mark Williams Custom Homes are two separate companies, I feel like Tom, Sean, and I, we spend a lot of time together. So I'm a fan of theirs, they're a fan of mine, and like I want them to build homes. And so like there's not really a challenge or a hierarchy there. It's more of a partnership, and it's really elevating and it feels really good. I mean, honestly, it's what's born these different collectives. And I know you guys are going to be part of our architect collective. We have a builder collective, a design collective, an architect collective. And the whole idea is entrepreneurship is a very lonely business. It's like an island. And so having other entrepreneurs, and I like to use the word entrepreneurs because you are business owners. Yes, you are in the architecture field, but you are an entrepreneur first, because if you can't make it with the dollars and cents work, it doesn't really matter how great of architecture you perform, because nobody's paying you for it. And you still have to hire, fire, accounting, business, marketing. I mean, these are all things that we all have to do. And so I think the podcast, talking to builders in whatever platform it happens, is so helpful for all of us, because it makes you feel like, okay, I know I'm not, this difficult thing I'm experiencing is not alone. In your case, you guys have, partnership, and you can say, hey, what do you think about this? So anyway.
Well, it's interesting too. I mean, question right back at you. Why don't you have a partner?
Yeah.
Ooh, different kind of
a good one.
Yeah. I just,
I would,
you probably recognize something in yourself.
Play well with others.
Yeah.
So that's not the reason.
Yeah, I've actually never thought about it. I would. That's a good question. I would probably be biased. My dad often said early on that partnerships are difficult. I think I've always been. I think I've always been biased against partners because of what I heard as a kid. That partners you're splitting half the profit. You also are splitting half the risk. Now, right now, we're doing an investment piece with an investor. I'm pretty excited about it, because it left alone, I wouldn't do it. And so, but we'll see. I think you're right. I think a lot of the sports I play are interesting. I guess I'm a hot mess of black and white here, because I'm a little bit of everything, because there's a part of me that I do a lot of solo sports, ultra running or tennis is a little, but then, there's a lot of team sports, right? Like I enjoy the camaraderie of biking with a group or running with a group, but yet the actual racing is done alone.
Right.
And so it's sort of interesting. I couldn't answer that question. It must be a psychology thing for me, because the thing that I'm most encouraged by with like the Curious Builder platforms and working with these other, builders, is that I get to spend a lot of time collaborating. So I really enjoy, I think my number one thing I like to do is just be around people. But I think at the core of it, the reason I'm probably not a business owner with another person is I also have pretty strong will. There's pros and cons. I mean, I'm going to start, 7 businesses by Wednesday, and I'm my own worst enemy. But like, if I have to run that by someone else, like it just kills my momentum.
Right.
I'm fine with like some collaborative feedback, but at the end of the day, like if I believe it, like it's going to happen. Like I will just I have the
You're gonna
will,
plow
I'm going
forward.
to make it happen. Doesn't always make it a good decision, by the way. Like I've
Wow.
made lots of bad decisions. I could be way further on in my career, probably with somebody else, but I don't know sometimes if you can escape your own personality.
Mhm.
And so my dad used to always say, there can only be one lead dog on the sled. And I was thinking about like the Iditarod. We have that lead dog out there. And I think all these analogies, you kind of have to see how they fit in your life, because sometimes that's true and sometimes it's not.
Some resonate,
Some don't.
Mhm.
And sometimes, and I would say different phases of your life.
Oh,
There's certain parts of your life that, maybe you were better off one way or another. And I think on the back 40 of my career, I'm really more interested in collaborating with people. It's more fun. It's
Mhm.
honestly, even if you make less money, like it's just way more enjoyable to be working and elevating other people. And that's really given me kind of a shot of adrenaline. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that answered your question, because
Yeah.
maybe I don't even know the
You
answer.
may be a solo entrepreneur, a solo business owner, but you are fed by the collectives you run. You are fed by being around other people. You are still kind of filling that vessel.
Yep.
Mhm.
Sarah and I, at this point in our lives, each of us, mentioned before, we want to be around people that we genuinely enjoy being around. There was a time when we chased the best project, the flashiest project, the projects that would land on covers of magazines and win all kinds of awards and everything. That was the ideal, but not anymore. We want to have a good time.
Mhm. I think that's
That's what it
interesting
boils down
about
to.
that. I was just chatting with a builder about in the building world. We have the Builder of the Year award here in
Mhm.
Minnesota. It's a
Right.
great honor. So I
Right.
don't want this to sound like it's not. But there's a part of your brain that was like, oh, once you win that, like fasten your seatbelt, you've got it made. The clients are gonna be coming in the door. Like this is marketing gold. You win one, it's like chirp, chirp, nothing really changes. And so it's like if your pursuit, and that was never my pursuit, to be clear, but like if your pursuit is like the hardware or the achievement,
Yeah.
you've really missed out on the journey. It's the whole destination
Yeah.
and journey kind of concept. And I think even like the Olympics, gold, silver, and bronze would be great. And who wouldn't like that? But you know what? The journey of getting there. I mean, if you're not enjoying the journey, like you're kind of missing a lot in life. And most athletes, let's say, get to one Olympics, even if they got to a couple, it's like, what are you going to say? Your whole life boils down to like 2 events? Like that'd be kind of a sad state of affairs.
Mhm.
And so I think that's true of, it's important to be passionate and love what you do. And I think going back to the positive side, because there are some negative side with how emotional this business is, but the positive far outweigh it. The love, the community, the fact that you get to literally see something physically be built. We live in a lot. I do think manufacturing is really cool and like actually producing something. And this is not a knock against those that do say software development, and it's a great need for that. But like the biggest reason people get into construction, and when you pull them over and over again, is it's tangible. You can literally walk through it, live in it. And there's something deeply ingrained in us as humans in homes and lodging. But, and obviously we call it the American dream. And I think everyone can have that dream. You don't have to just be in America, but there is something really special about home ownership, home creation. And so, yeah, obviously I'm a little woo on it because it's my profession and yours as well. But I think, housing is such a phenomenal thing that we get to be a part of.
Mhm. Yeah.
So what are you seeing, kind of how has this last year gone, and what are you seeing down the pipeline? Like it's been really slow on our side here in Minnesota. I talked to other builders, some are busier than others, but obviously, interest rates, election years are kind of wild. I always say design, whatever's in the design bucket tells me what the future is going to be like. And I noticed, I knew there was going to be a huge slowdown for me because our designs really dried up third and fourth quarter of last year and first quarter. And so, it takes, these homes take probably anywhere from 3 to 6 months in proper design and selections before they get back on. So that design retainer really starts the process again. What are you seeing on your side?
Yeah. So it's been really quite remarkable how, I would say, if we're talking quarters, first quarter, second quarter of last year, we started getting inquiries from people out of state wanting to build cabins or lake homes up north. Or there was one in South Carolina.
Mhm.
I mean, so they're not all up north, but these are second homes from people who aren't necessarily in Minnesota. Say they were about 50-50 new versus remodel, but they weren't local. And now, this quarter alone, 2024, this quarter, we are getting more inquiries on new builds here in town. So I don't know what that indicates. We have one builder we work with who swears by the election year cycle.
Mhm.
every election year, things are going to dry up, and that's just how it is. You just got to ride it out.
I agree. I mean, it's been my
Mhm.
experience. I
Yeah.
really despise the 6 months into an election because it
I know.
just is so theatrical, and just even if it's not as theatrical as this particular one is, and by the time this episode airs, the election will be over.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
Thank
And
God.
but anyway, the people just really clench
Yeah.
in uncertainty,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah, even the people who maybe aren't dependent on interest rates, or where that it's not a direct factor, just the sense of unease that comes. People are very slow at making decisions, big decisions, and
Mhm.
when it comes to their home, it's in the big decision category.
Mhm. It's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what we've seen and what we are seeing right now.
Mhm.
So there's optimism.
And I think different parts. I talked to a lot of builders from around the country. Certain places they're
Yeah.
just gang. I have a lot of people in my builder 20 in the southeast, and they're just so busy. And obviously, unfortunately, with these hurricanes,
Mm.
it's pretty awful. On the flip side of it, obviously,
Yeah.
there's going to have to be a lot of homes that are going to have to be built. And what's sort of interesting about pricing too is, supply and demand is, in Minnesota alone, I think the last stat I read was like, we're 100,000 homes behind what we need.
Mhm.
And so as we've built less this year than we would have liked to as a whole, it's only going to make costs continue to go up. And I often tell my
That's the
clients,
last thing we need up here.
yeah, and it is, Minnesota does have a problem with cost. One of the most expensive in the country. And I saw a stat that Housing First had put on that was like, let's just take Lennar, Pulte, or whatever it is, Scheme B, and Scheme B was the same home in Wisconsin,
Mhm.
Iowa, South Dakota, Illinois, and Wisconsin. And Minnesota was the most expensive
Yeah.
home in those 5 or 6 states, and we were more expensive by like 30 or 40,000 than some of our neighbors. And I don't. It's not material. Labor is a little bit more expensive here, I think, because our cost of living is a little more expensive than the rest. But most of it would probably be taxes and fees and different
Which is
city ordinances and whatnot. Which is, I know they try. The lobbyists for housing are trying to stop that. But even that one example just shows how much more expensive it is to just get in. Now we operate and you design at a higher level, but I would say our clients too have held back. I mean, most of our clients, I'd say 60-70% do pay cash, but when the market, plus what the market's been so high, if you can leave your money in the market and make 8-10%, if there's uncertainty, they're like, well, it's a pretty good deal just to leave my money in there. I don't need to do anything. And so it's hard to, I have 3 clients that have either put on hold or just decided to do nothing. And it's hard because unless there is like a stick, and one of the biggest sticks, of course, it would be downsizing. So you have this big home and you want to downsize. That seems to be half of our clientele. And the other ones would be like young families. Like if you're having children, your needs are changing. And we do a lot of stuff. I live in Minneapolis and Southwest Minneapolis. There are a lot of smaller homes. And it's like if they get past 2 kids, most of those homes don't work. It's either a pretty big renovation or they have to decide, do I move and do I build? Right. And so I feel like life needs to sort of give you that stick to prod you, because just kind of left to your own, it just seems to me, and it's rare that someone just builds a home to build a home. It's like there sort of needs to be a need or a cause.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that's true?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There's a life event, I think,
Mm-hmm.
is what the psychology term is. But there is a life nudge
Mm-hmm.
involved.
Mm-hmm.
That is the precursor to every project.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting a lot of clients who are downsizing, but also wanting to, the term is age in place. They want to build their forever home that will allow them to stay there as long as they want to. When they move out, if they ever move out, it's not going to be because they need to. And so we're designing couples bathrooms that are already framed up, and we know exactly which walls are going to come down when the time comes, because it's going to happen for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
When we're either in crutches or we have walkers or we have wheelchairs. We're designing spaces with a plan for 20 years down the road when that day comes for them. And the peace of mind that gives people, because we're all hearing about, and we're, sandwich generation here.
Mm-hmm.
We're taking care of our parents. and children at the same time. And we're seeing how expensive it is to take care of those parents and trying to forecast that for us when the time comes.
I think we do a lot with even young families, right? You stack the closets for a
Yeah.
future elevator.
Right.
You know, an elevator's not that expensive. Let's call it 40, 50,000. To rough it in is like 8 or 9,000, 10,000, let's say. You know, that's very inexpensive insurance that can be designed around for the future. Or you could do what we're doing on the Dragon Plan, have a sauna in the elevator,
Right.
which is really a
that's
game
right.
changer. Inside
First
joke.
combo of its kind.
Yeah. Yeah. That was pretty funny. Well, as we
Sauna elevator.
as we come in for the landing,
Be a twofer.
maybe just a little personal stuff. So,
Funny.
Sarah, I know you love to row and you compete. Tell us a little
Yes.
bit about how you got into rowing and how that fits into your work-life balance, because I know you're an avid outdoor enthusiast and a racer.
Yeah. So the reason I got into rowing, when I went to college, undergrad at Lewis and Clark College, and my roommate and I were coming out of the dining hall, whatever that was called, and all these cars drove up to dump these people off at the dining hall, and all these men got out of the all these boys men got out of the car, all these really tall guys, and I was like, oh, what's that?
So
and
bold.
she said, Lisa said, that's the crew team. And I said, we are signing up for that. And we were down in the boat the next day.
Oh, funny. That is a good
But
story.
then I got in the boat and it just was life-changing for me. I thought, well, this is where I belong, in this boat. And so learned how to scull right away and did lots of sweeping. And yeah, zoom forward 500 years. And I still am very competitive. I'm 5,000 years old. Actually, I'm going to be going to Boston, and I knew you were just in Boston because you sent me a photo, but I'm going to be racing at the head of the Charles.
That's amazing.
In a couple weeks.
Yeah, so it's funny because
biggest
now
regatta ever.
whenever I bike or run and I see a skull, I send you a picture. So
Yeah,
I was in Boston running and I took one in the background, right?
Yeah.
The skull was right over me.
Yep.
So what do you mean it's the biggest regatta in the world?
It's the biggest regatta in the world, the most competitors in the world. So
And is
people
that-
come from all over the world to race in
Is
Boston.
it normally that famous, that particular one?
Yeah.
Okay.
And because it's an Olympic year, there will be a lot of Olympic crews because they like to come in and dominate and just show. You know, it's kind of a show too, but Paralympics, Olympics,
What
Olympians.
distances are they racing? Or
So
are you racing?
So a head race is a 3-mile race, and you're typically kind of going up a river 3 miles. In the spring
So you have to
and the
navigate
summer,
the bends and the turns. And
absolutely.
I assume they have other lanes. I mean,
Nope.
how much of it has to do with navigation in terms of like getting the inside angle?
A ton of it.
Yeah.
There's one buoy line in Boston. There's one buoy line that goes up, and you want to, stay on that buoy line.
How many would be in that heat?
Well, it's just one race. So in my category, which is the old lady category,
The 5,000
the
and
5,000 plus,
older?
there are, I think, I haven't looked at the latest but I think it's like 80,
That's a
80
lot.
women my age.
Wow.
And older and a little bit younger.
And they'll all be single crews?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm competing in the women's single.
Okay. And so they have multiple disciplines, right? They'd have what? A single?
There's
double,
a single,
quad?
there's a double, a pair, a quad, an 8. So all sorts of options. Then in the spring and the summer, we do, it's not head racing, but it's sprinting. So you're racing 2,000 meters or 1,000 meters.
And that's what we see in the Olympics.
Yeah, that's what you see in the Olympics.
Yep.
2,000 meter race.
Yep. Interesting. That's just an all-out sprint, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
Very, very hard. I mean, they all are. It's a hard sport.
Yeah.
It's highly technical and it's beautiful. It looks beautiful, but it's really hard.
Well, and I remember years ago reading a magazine about VO2 max that
Oh,
essentially
yeah.
rowers and cross-country skiers have the highest VO2 max.
Yep.
All the endurance sports. How have you found that? Does that help you show up at work, or talk a little bit about how that, are you rowing every morning, or what time of day are you rowing?
Yeah. So this morning I was out, launched off the dock at 5:45. I was with 3 other women, and there were other crews. The University of Minnesota's out, lots of crews, but we were just racing up and down the river, getting ready. Well, there's an actual regatta this weekend here called Head of the Mississippi. So I'll be rowing in that to get ready to go to Boston. But yeah, it makes my day. If I could be a professional athlete, I would. I just love it. I love everything about it. I love the teamwork of it, even though I am in the single right now, but every day it teaches me something new. I just am constantly working at something. this morning the coach drove by and said, "Hey, Sarah, up at the catch, you need to blah, blah, blah." And it's just, I have to think about that all the time. Balance is a huge thing. And then when I jump into a team boat, Marcy and I started talking about this early on when we were getting ready to launch Chisel.
Yeah.
But the idea of, the analogy of being in a crew boat. So let's say you are in a big 8. So you have a coxswain, who is driving the boat. And then all the other people, everyone in that boat is going the same direction, right? Which seems so simple, but everyone in that boat has a different role. So there's the person leading the boat, there's kind of the power people in the middle, and then the people with the good technical work and the coxswain. But everyone has a different role, but you have to come together. And the trust that I have learned and gained from knowing the people that I've rowed with over the years, all the women and the men that I've rowed with, is just such a wonderful bond. I mean, I just think it really makes me show up as a better person.
Yeah, we could talk a whole podcast and this would be
Yes.
fascinating. Maybe we should. Sauna camp. You need to come to sauna camp and we can talk in the cold
we can
water.
Talk in the cold water. I'll be in the cold water.
As well as the sauna itself. How about you, Marcy? How do you recharge?
Oh God. It's the everlasting question, when you start a business, because you're being pulled in multiple directions and you need to have the backbone to say no sometimes. That in and of itself has been a skill that I have tried to learn, and I continue to try to hone here 6-7 years into this. But what I do is I go home, and animals have always been a huge part of my life. Huge. I was the girl growing up. My mom and my parents both were saints. I had the guinea pigs, the hamsters, the birds, the dogs. They would never let me get a cat. Oddly enough, I don't know.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. I didn't get my first cat until I was in grad school.
Right, yeah. I knew that.
Yeah. And so I go home and I train my dogs. I work with my dogs. I have working breed dogs at home. And so what that means is we're pack hiking. They have a drafting cart. The running joke when my husband and I met playing softball on the fields on Lake Nokomis. Those are on the north side of the lake. We live on the south side of the lake now. But while we were still playing softball, one of our Swissies, we would put the drafting cart behind her and she would take the beer. We carried our own gear and our softball gear. She carried the beer.
That's funny.
To the other side of the lake for softball games every Wednesday. Now we have a Samoyed at home, and she's 9 months old, so you can't do much other than just kind of work her brain and do fun puppy things. But I'm going to be showing her.
Oh, that's cool.
I also show my dogs.
Yeah.
I have a dream one day of, taking them to Westminster. It's commitment, time commitment, logistics, and all that kind of business. But just shown here in the Midwest for the most part, and luckily enough, been very successful. And what I get out of that myself is the bond, because learning dog language and learning to just be that intuitive and take care of another being, happen to be a 4-legged as versus a 2-legged. And I don't know. Animals have just always been a huge part. And that's how I recharge.
And you have a daughter as well, right?
Yes, 27.
27.
27.
I'm going to ask a crazy question here with all this training. Was there any analogy between training dogs and raising kids?
Oh, yeah. Humans, we all, regardless of how many legs we have, we all respond to conditioning.
Yep.
And
yeah,
we have this joke in the office. So I'm a Big Bang Theory kind of, and Sarah too. There's an episode where Sheldon, every time Penny does something,
I thought for a second there, you were going to the Big Bang Theory. I was like, oh, this is going to be an interesting conversation.
Yeah, here we go. Yeah, this is
funny. We can nerd out, but we're not going to nerd out like that.
Yeah.
Anyways, there's literally an episode where whenever Penny does something right, Sheldon gives her a chocolate.
Care for a chocolate?
Oh, funny.
And it works on her. And so, yes, Darwin taught his dog to salivate with the bell and everything, but it can happen with humans too.
Training.
And yeah, so there is this kind of fundamental understanding in all of us. And I just find it really fascinating.
No, that is interesting. I mean, it goes back to athletics too. I mean, you train yourself, right? I mean,
Yeah.
your body knows when you're probably going to go into pain. When you're going to the pain cave for a race, I used to coach cross country running. And so we had this one kid that before every race, you'd go over to the barrel and just puke his guts out. And I always felt bad, but it was his body's way of
getting ready.
I'm getting ready. And it's like he had no control. It just happened. And not everyone has a more extreme version than some others, but even the salivating hungry thing, right? I wonder how often we eat because we know, it's 5:30, it's time for dinner versus actually being hungry.
Right, being really hungry.
And there's good habits, bad habits anyway.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother podcast. So it turns out we're going to have a series of
another
podcasts.
Yeah. So are you competing?
I just finished my 50 miler a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
So,
Are you doing the marathon?
No.
Okay.
No. I did 2 of them in a row. So I'm good.
You're good.
Yeah. No, I decided I don't like roads. So
Okay.
I'm pretty much at this point only
And
run
trails.
on trail.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier on your body. It's more enjoyable. I like being outside. Maybe I have one more. I've never done Boston, so there's the ego side of me that wants to qualify for Boston, but I'm like, as big as a horse, so it's like, okay, I'm gonna have to wait. I think my only way to get to Boston is wait till everyone else's bodies fall apart and
then you come back.
I'll come back at like 55 or 60 and like qualify for Boston when everyone else has just quit.
Yeah.
So
well, you should try rowing. Because all you have to do is get in and out of the boat, right?
I need another sport. Like at 6'2", I mean, actually rowing and cross country skiing would be the 2 sports I would do very well at with my body type. But it's just like, I already play so many sports. I can't possibly juggle them all. Yeah. Rowing, we actually had a scull growing up on a lake. So my dad built one. So we had a little 2-person one that we never used. And I think Dad had a single that we must have used a little bit. My dad is a Renaissance man. He's tried about everything. And so we had it for like 2 summers and he got bored. He's like, sold it to whoever. But then one winter, he just built one.
Oh, wow.
So I think he might even still have it. It's just a wood one.
Oh, cool.
And so anyway, maybe
we'll go take a look at it.
I do enjoy it. I mean, when I go to the gym, sometimes if I warm up, I'll just hop on the row machine and go, and it's I do enjoy it. So, and I love the water, but again, too many hobbies.
Yeah, too much equipment.
I appreciate you guys coming on the podcast. We'll have everything in the show notes, and I appreciate your time and for the audience listening. And if anyone wants to reach out to you, they can go to chiselarchitecture.com and we have all your Instagram stuff will be in the notes as well.
Great.
So
thank you.
Thanks for coming on,
so
ladies.
Much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We've had the podcast now for 2.5, almost 3 years now. And we have a consulting page, 1-to-1 consulting. You can book my time for 1 hour. Perhaps you've heard a guest where you like one of the topics. Maybe you want an introduction to some of the guests that I've had on. Perhaps you want to talk about branding or marketing or anything that we've covered on the podcast over the last 2.5 years. You can book a time at curiousbuilderpodcast.com. Thanks for tuning in to the Curious Builder Podcast. If you like this episode, do us a favor. Share it with 3 other business owners. The best way that we can spread what we're doing is by word of mouth, and with your help, we can continue to help other curious builders expand their business. Please share it with your friends, like and review online, and thanks again for tuning in.